I turned 38 in January, and I don't feel old by any means. In fact, some days I look in the mirror and I don't think that I even look over 30. And some days I still feel like I'm in my 20s. But when I turned 38 this year, I, for the first time, felt panicky. And yesterday I was talking to one of my oldest friends, somebody that I became friends with right after I moved to Texas. She just turned 39 yesterday, and we were talking about it, and she was kind of going through the same thing. We don't really feel old. It is strange to think that we're almost 40, but there's this panicky feeling because, up until lately, you think that you have enough time. And then when you wake up and realize that you're like middle aged and you realize how fast that time went by, it's really scary to think how fast the next half of your life is going to go by. And feelings about mortality have completely changed in the last couple of months. When I moved back to my hometown, some complete stranger found me on Facebook and offered me this position, helping take care of her great aunt, or her husband's great aunt. And this lady was 96. She turned 97 while I was working with them. And I'd never been around anybody that old. And I learned a lot from her. And there's so many things that I feel like, you just accept as you get older, and maybe it gets easier. And I just had a lot of aha moments while working, for her and getting to know her. And there's things that, like, human feelings and emotions just don't go away. For instance, one time she asked me to play some tapes, actually cassette tapes, it's that old, of her mother singing. And her mother had died when she was in her 70s, and so that was like 20 years ago. And I just saw this wave of sadness come over her, and it just like kind of dawned on me, and I don't know why I never thought about it, but I'm like, even a 90-year-old person still mourns the loss of their mother, and that was just insane. And another time, one of her friends called, and it was somebody she'd known since childhood, and her friend was, talking to her, and she really couldn't speak. She just listened, and I kind of communicated for her. And her friend was, talking about all the things that they used to do and how much she missed her. And as Betty was listening to it, I could just see this wave of emotion come, and she cried this cry that I will never forget, this howl, this just deep sadness. And I thought, God, like, I don't know why I thought that just you would accept that and that it would be easier. And she was somebody who fought for her life for so long, and we didn't understand how she was holding on. But it's, we have this, some people have this strong desire to live, and it's just been really crazy for me to wrap my head around it. And I feel like in some ways, like, moving back to my hometown has been really rough, but I know that everything happens for a reason. And when I'm in any situation, like, what can I learn from this, and why am I here? Like, what is the purpose? And so, getting to know her and really kind of examining my life, I think was a good learning, or a good lesson. But I don't know. I was speaking on a call last night for another team, and as I was telling my story that I've told a million times, I realized that I'm great at being vulnerable. I'm great about being open and honest about every aspect of my life. I'm great at storytelling, but I'm really rotten at retelling the entire story. And a lot's because I feel like some of these things are not relevant. Other reasons are because I think that you've heard it a million times and you don't want to hear it again. And I realized that I have changed. Like, who I am right now is 0% the same as who I was when I started this journey 7.5 years ago. The only thing that remains the same is that I'm a mother of 3. I'm married to Ryan. I'm Asian, and I'm 5'3". Other than that, everything's changed. So I have to realize that other people change, and circumstances change, mindsets change. And so me telling my story maybe 5 years ago to somebody might not have even resonated with him. It may not have filled a need. It may not have been relatable, but now it is. And so that's a reason why I need to start sharing it more. And even if the stories that I could tell from back in 2012 aren't necessarily relevant now, they still are the truth. They are still things that can inspire people. I realized yesterday, one of my Facebook friends said that, I'm a mom who's been buying diapers for 6 years. She has 3 kids that are like stair-step kids. And I thought, wow, I haven't bought diapers in, like 7 years or like 6 years. And it was kind of weird. Like, I never realized that the last time I bought diapers was the last time I bought diapers. And I'm over that. Like, people talk about their kids throwing fits, and I'm like, wow, it just ended. Like, I remember it being so hard, and now I just look back and I'm like, I don't even remember when it ended. And I think that's the scariest thing about time, is that you don't remember when those things happen, especially nowadays when you're so busy. But one of the things I shared last night on the call with another team was how much coaching, even though it just started completely with just fitness and for vanity reasons, has changed who I am. And it's shaped not just me, but my entire family and my kids. And I know that our relationship and who they are completely different than they would have been had I not been driven to stay on the path of, focusing on my health, fitness, and wellness. Had I not been accepted into the community, had I not accepted the invitation into the community. But I was telling a story about how I was always so busy. I had 3 kids in 3 different schools. My husband worked out of town 7 days at a time, and I would get home. It would take, 25 minutes by the time I left work to get my son, maybe even 30 minutes to get home. And I was always like in a race against the clock of like, get dinner ready, get everything cleaned up, get kids in the bath, get them in bed. And really, honestly, all I did after that was just sit in the garage and just get completely fucked up drunk because I was so lonely, so miserable. And I remember my kids would come to the door because they'd be so happy to see me, because my daughters would ride the bus home to an empty house. And that's like, I felt like that was the only thing I could do. I didn't have anybody to help me. I couldn't pick up my kids. And I remember, being just rushing past them, never listening to them, because I was always focused on what I needed to get done. And I remember one moment I just realized they stopped coming to the door. Like, they stopped coming to the door. And it was like that moment that, like, you'll never get that back. And I just remember thinking, like, is this what being a mom's like? Is like coming home and seeing your kids just for a couple minutes while you're like rushing and you're stressed. And I remember the times that they would tell me that they had a field trip or there was something at school, and I would get so pissed. And I was not mad at them, but I would take it out on them. And because I would just be like, God, I can't take off work. And I would just, I don't know, I just would lash out at them, and I was not mad at them. I was more upset that I couldn't be there, and upset when other moms could. And I was that mom yesterday that was on a field trip with my son, and he never remembers a time when I was not there. And I just thought, I remember when they stopped telling me about these things because they knew I couldn't go. And then I remember one time being like, why didn't you tell me? Because another mom told me, and they were like, well, you never can go. And I was just like, oh God, I'm at mom, and no matter what, I'm upset. And so that changed everything. Like, I decided to go all in with this business. I decided to go all in on working hard, and what I sacrificed and how hard I worked and how difficult it was at times was so worth it, because my children are very positive. They can see the difference between positive and negative. They understand health. And I think more importantly, my girls saw that things were not the way I wanted it to be, and I worked hard to make it happen. So they realized that anything's possible and that they're worth it. Because as a kid, I never felt like I was worth it, and that created really shitty relationships as an adult. And so I hope that my girls know that they were worth it, and that they always find friendships and relationships where they feel worthy. So I just wanted to share that, because I forget telling those stories, because it's been so long since I've had little kids in the house, and been so long since I was that parent that missed out on, events and things. And so I need to get better at sharing this, because I know there's other parents out there, especially at the end of the school year, where there's field day and field trips and class parties that you're missing out on, and that you don't have to accept this, challenge the status quo. There's people out there who have done it, who want to help you do it, because they've drank the Kool-Aid and seen the success and been there to enjoy their freedom. And so if this is something that resonates with you, if this is something that you've longed for, if you understand what it's like to feel like shit for treating your kids the way you do because you're frustrated, like, it doesn't have to be this way, and it's never too late to change things.